Hello, and welcome to the first episode in the new series, Through the Eyes of an Equestrian. Joining us today and kicking it all off is the lovely Xanthe Goldsack, who's going to be telling us all about her eventing journey so far from Pony Club to 4-star, and also about the challenges she's combat and continues to do so on her quest to reach that prestigious 5-star level. So, Xanthe, away we go. Give us some context.
I'm Xanthe, I'm 21 and I have two horses. One is a very recent purchase. She's a 5-year-old and she's at B100 level. She's just gone to the British Championships at Osby. And my other boy, I've had him for nearly 6 years now. He's a 4-star horse and he's done everything with me. So I've taken him from 100 to 4-star. I'm also at Newcastle University studying genetics or biomedical science, and I'm currently on my placement year working for Pfizer doing a sales and marketing position. I originally started eventing when I rode my second pony called Colour Spin. She was a 4-year-old when I bought her, and I ended up doing some pony club eventing, just very low level. And it wasn't actually until my mum was working at Bishop Burton at the Pony European Championships on the surfacing stand, and she sent me to walk the cross country course on my own. And she said, if you want to go out and actually do some eventing, go and walk the cross country. And she was thinking that this was going to make me absolutely terrified and never want to set foot doing eventing ever again, only to realize that I came back and decided this is what I really want to do. I want to pony trial. So she was terrified, but that was my decision. I wanted to do it from then on.
So it's no secret that the sport is very, very expensive. How have you managed to fund yourself from ponies all the way up until 4-star now and beyond thinking of 5-star?
So my mum has been a massive support all the way through my riding career, and it's been really helpful to have all her knowledge and understanding and like a good equestrian background. I've had to make a lot of sacrifices for eventing, which has been always my decision. And everything has always been on a budget. So me and my mum, since I was 14, have decided, we're happy to sacrifice holidays. We're happy to sacrifice other like after school commitments and clubs and school trips and things like that. And I really wanted to do eventing as well as I could. So we decided that it would be like very open between the two of us for our finances. My mum didn't really keep anything from me, and it really opened my eyes to how much everything cost, especially with the horses. It gave me a massive appreciation of how expensive things were, and I really had to look after my stuff if I wanted to keep it good enough to make my dreams come true and go eventing properly and make it work. My head was in the long game. I wanted to make it to 4-star. I didn't just want to do ponies for a bit and then finish. We spent time and money picking and choosing things that were going to last me a long time. And I actually went 4-star in the saddle that I started riding my 14-2 pony in. I went from a big pony to a small horse anyway, but that tack lasted me like 6 years until it needed replacing because I'd outgrown it, not the horses, and it hadn't broken or anything. When I got to 4-star, actually, my family, they had been really supported, but everything was really, really on a budget still. So we focused on like the quality of the competitions and the quality of the training as opposed to the quantity. So I would concentrate on having one lesson every 4 weeks and then going home and really learning, thinking about what I'd learned, writing it down, working out a plan about what I would do, how many dressage sessions and show jumping sessions I would do a week, so I could go and get the most out of that training. The same with the competitions. I couldn't afford to go to a competition every week or every 2 weeks, but I knew I could afford 7 to 9 competitions a season, which saves on cost, and you just have to plan carefully so that you're going to get the right qualifications if you want to do championships and internationals. If you want to save your horse, like I'm a 1-horse rider, if you want to save your horse's legs, you can't be running it every 2 weeks. So it saves on both money and it saves your horse's legs.
So, at this current moment in time, you still are in full-time education and you aren't doing horses professionally as a career. Albeit that you're in a year in industry at the moment, so that's probably a little bit simpler for you. But you did take a year out and go to Ireland. So tell us about that. What did you learn?
Well, the motive for actually going on my gap year, I decided to go straight to uni originally. But my mum got made redundant during my A levels, so we decided together we couldn't afford to keep Snip anymore. So I knew that I still wanted to ride and I still wanted to event, but the livery cost is just crazy. We don't have space at home, so we have to keep the horses in livery. Um, so I said to mum, I'll go and I'll become self-sufficient for a year. So I moved to Ireland. I got a job over there, and it actually ended up being one of the best seasons and one of the best years of my life. Um, I went over, I rode for Fernhill and I rode for Tullibard Stud. So I rode a crazy amount of horses, 8 to 9 horses a day mostly. And it not only did it give me a massive amount of experience, but I was paid as a rider. You know, it wasn't a lot. I wasn't professional. I didn't have enough experience. Um, but it meant I could really decide I want to save my money for this competition, and I saved every penny to get to Tattersalls at the end of the season, which was such an amazing competition. It was totally amazing way to end a really successful season in Ireland. I remember walking the course actually at Tattersalls with my mum, and we walked fence 1 and I got to fence 2, and I just remember I'd never seen anything so big in all my life. And there was a huge ditch in front of it, and it was a massive table, and it had a bank on top. And I just looked at mum and I was like, oh my God, this is enormous. And when I flew around Tats, I actually had 3 new experiences on course. I was held before a combination because there was a rider fall, which had never happened before. So then my watch had gone off, and I'd never had that happen before. And then I was actually held at the start as well, so I couldn't go back into the arena, and I had to come straight out on course, which was absolutely terrifying. But as soon as I came over that finish line, I knew that the horse that I was riding, he just ate it up so easily, and I was so confident. I just knew that we'd get there to 4-star if that's what I wanted to do.
He is also your only horse, isn't he? Up until this season, where obviously you also had your youngster to compete with. But how have you managed him? How have you managed to keep him sound, and how do you continue to do so?
I know one of the most common questions that I get is, "Oh, what happens if your horse breaks?" I think it shocks me every time I hear it, because obviously there's a huge amount of luck in keeping horses sound. There's freak accidents and things that can happen, and unforeseen circumstances. But I think mostly you have to work out a plan that works for you. And my plan has been kind of taking snippets from each person that I've worked for or trained with and learned from. And I think making a plan that you have confidence in and that you will stick to is so important. I ice my horses every time they leave the ground in training. If we're jumping or cross country, if they're galloping, I ice. If I've had a really hard flat lesson, I ice. I never school at home for more than 25 minutes because I think you've only ever got so many circles in you in one session. I take them to the treadmill to try and strengthen their stamina work without actually putting too much pressure on the joints. And I think hacking is a massive part of my routine. 4 to 6 weeks of road work, I use it every season to strengthen. And if your horse breaks, you nurse it back. You don't just, I can't afford to, but I don't think just getting another one is the right answer.
So, when you arrive at a competition and you see who's in the section, you see a list of names, you don't really put much thought into each individual and how they've got there and how they're managing that. So, do you find that's a limitation in the sport?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's a massive part of it. When you rock up and everyone's in a huge HGV and they've all got the sponsor stickers on the side of the lorry, you don't realize just how much that sponsorship can help somebody. And I've I know from personal experience, when I've applied to funding programs, it's either that they don't think I'm going to be a professional because I've only got one horse, so I'm not eligible for funding. I'm not looking at it as a career path, so that kind of makes me void. And then also I applied to grassroots funding pathways, and they say, oh, you're too high level, so we can't accept your application. So I think it is really difficult. And title sponsors and companies that are really well renowned don't want to sponsor Mrs. Nobody, who's probably going to finish halfway down the board. So it is difficult, and it has limited me. But I think, again, like, just picking the competitions that you desperately want to go to, and not just, really planning your season. Like, where do I want to be next season? What competitions do I want to do for me and my horse? Where do I want to go? And how can I qualify, and how can I get there? As opposed to just, oh, let's, plan a month in advance and see how it goes. And obviously plans change with horses. Horses are so unreliable, things go wrong. But having a really good plan and knowing what you're motivated to do, and thinking about the competitions that you want to do, as opposed to just spending money where you don't need to.
So obviously that ties in. Do you feel like when you're up against professionals who maybe have 3 or 4 horses just in that one section, they might have another 6 on their wagon, do you feel like you have a lack of practice at all?
Definitely, yeah. I think it's a massive part of the mental game as well as the physical game. I know when I was in Ireland and I was riding all those horses, I was so confident. You're really confident in your abilities. You can adapt your riding to fit different horses, and it almost becomes second nature. It's instinct, because you're doing it all day, every day. Whereas when you just have one horse, you do feel out of practice. I've already said I try and save my horse's legs, because I don't want to tempt fate, and I don't want things to go wrong. So, jumping once a week is what I do with my horses. But that is not enough practice for me to feel professional going around a 4-star track of 135. So I do feel out of practice, but I'd say the best way to get around that is just ride everything you can. Ride anything that anyone will give you. Young horses are a massive help. I know at Jamie Atkinson's, he's been amazing with me, and every time I'm about to go to a big competition, he sticks me on all the 4-year-olds, and he says, okay, we're going to jump around this 2-foot track, and it's almost like it calibrates your riding. You have to be so accurate and so direct with young horses that when you get onto something more experienced like Snip, it's automatic. It feels like they just know what you're about to ask, and it's happening for you. So just, I would recommend to anyone who's in the same position, ride anything you can get your hands on. It doesn't matter if you're paid or not paid, just, you need the practice. And that's what I feel like I always need the practice. And I think the mental side of it is also quite challenging. You can't feel as confident if you're a 1-horse rider and you're riding at 4-star, and everybody else there is a multiple horse rider, and they're pushing in front of you and pushing you out of time. But if you don't have a good day, a professional who's ridden 4 or 5 horses, if they have a bit of an average day on one horse, or they have a stop, but they go clear on every other horse, that's still a good day. They still come home and they've got positive energy from that. And I think if you don't have a good day with your one horse, it sticks with you until the next competition, which, as I've explained, like, might be a month away. So I think resilience is a massive part of eventing, and I think it's something that you will get practiced, and I've definitely matured with it. When I was doing ponies, it was heartbreaking, to be honest, not having a good day, and you'd think about it for days after, and it would make you dread the next competition. It would make you really nervous for it, knowing that you'd not had a great last run out. But over the years, you do get practiced, and you do realize that it's just one bad day. No one's going to care, no one's going to realize. It's just it hurts on the day. You need to make sure you can step away and think, no, what positives can I take from this?
So obviously, as you mentioned, like, that could be a month away. In the meantime, you're a full-time university student, aren't you, at Newcastle? So
Yeah.
that must also have substantial challenges to it, because you're not at the yard all day every day. So how do you make it work?
So as I've said, I'm at Jamie Atkinson's, which has been amazing. They've got a really good, girl there who works with the horses, and I think a massive part of it is planning your week. And like I've said it about the season, like, you need to plan your season for success. but planning your week far in advance. I do a full-time course of study, so I'm in nearly 9 till 5 every day. It's usually 9 till 3. And it can be really motivating to ride in the morning, but when you finish studying at 3 and you've been up since 5, and then having to do an evening of extra reading and prep for the next day, that's just like the worst thing that you can experience. So breaking the day up is what I like to do, and I like to finish my lectures and then ride straight away. You've got to plan. You've got to plan exactly what you want and be organized. I think that's the key here. You just be organized.
Looking forward to the future now, then, as you progress into the world of work, how do you plan on balancing your profession alongside your eventing career?
Well, I think this year has kind of given me a good taste of what it will be like. The after work thing, I mean, it only took me a week or so to get into the routine of doing the horses after work. It's not great in the winter, it's dark, especially when it rains, it feels a bit miserable. Um, but it's not that difficult. I want to get a really good job, and I'd love to be on the post grad scheme for Pfizer. I'd love to start working my way up the ladder. I know that I want to ride and train to the best of my ability. It's in my nature. I'm just really competitive. um, I love the team that I work with at Pfizer, and I love the ethos of the company. I think they're really invested in your personal development, and I think they love for you to have a life outside of work. It's amazing doing the horses. I love doing the competitions, and I think if you can train outside of work and have the money from your job and your career to be able to do that, and just keep your horses in livery or eventually keep your horses at home, 5 star is not, it's not out of reach. I don't think anything is out of reach if you plan carefully and you believe that you can do it.
Leading on to the final question for you, then. So, obviously, you are a prime example that hard work pays off and hard work gets you places. So, what would your advice be to girls 5 years younger than you who are probably thinking, I want to do this, but I don't have the funding? What would you say?
I think just keep believing in your passion. Like, if you have a passion for something and a passion for horses, don't let that work and that drive, don't let it fizzle out. Don't ruin it by saying, oh, I'll just do horses and then it'll happen. I know I don't want my passion to fizzle out. I want to be able to look back and think, I've worked really, really hard, but I don't want to make it my life. So first of all, don't give up. Like, absolutely try and make it work. I know it's a shameless life, but beg, borrow, and obviously don't steal. Um, but you can get there, and people will help you out when they can see how like hard you're willing to work for something. People are generous, and people do help. So make friends. That's my second point. Give out as much as you can take. If you need some favors, it's always good to have favors in the bank. It's really important that you do show that you're prepared to help people. Give an extra day's grooming to someone, help someone take their horses to a competition, do anything you can, because when you're doing it on a budget and when you're doing it like I am, you do need people to be on your side, and it's really helpful to make some good contacts. This is one for the girls and boys who want to stay in university, but honestly, study hard. I know that I don't have any regrets coming out of A levels and out of school and out of university. I've worked as hard as I possibly can. I'm really proud of myself for getting a placement with Pfizer. But mainly just keep your options open. A few years down the line, if you decide I don't want to do horse anymore, then it's a bit difficult to turn around, but it isn't ever too late if you decide you do want to step back into education. And also, just decide what you want. That's my final point. I knew when I was 13 that I really wanted to pony trial, and I wanted to do that more than anything. I wanted to do it more than shopping. I wanted to do it more than holidays. I wanted to do it more than any after school club or trip that was presented to me. And now I want to go 5 star. So honestly, just never stop working, because it's what drives you, and where there's a will, there is a way.